Hey everybody, I don't know if anybody is going to be online because I know this is not the time when people are online, but I wanted to talk about something and I better talk about it now because when I feel like it, I feel like it. When I don't, it's not gonna come together. Hopefully, you can watch it later. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so I'm not going to be talking to the void anyway. But for others who missed it, I hope you join later and rewatch the IGTV. So, what I want to talk about is the now and the journey to where to, right? Like, where does the journey lead? Like, this question of when is this gonna be over been coming up very often lately within the collective, within myself, in different situations, right? We are asking about when the COVID is going to be over. Then, for those who are on the spiritual journey, there are moments when we're like, when this is going to be over, as if there is a certain goal for after we achieved the ascension or the place of enlightenment, some kind of goal, some kind of safe place. So these ideas, they are in themselves, as any concepts like usually do, always do. They are creating the unease through defining the difference between where we at and where we want to be. So this asking of when is this gonna be over is what drives the feeling of not being there yet. Just now, take a second. Just sit still, relax your shoulders. Just take a deep breath. Examine everything around you, within you, the thoughts, and become present. And everything is alright. For those who are meditating daily or often or ever at all, you know that within the meditation, this place of acceptance and peace and awareness is you know how to achieve it. It's there, right? But then you're done with the meditation, you keep going with your daily tasks, and you kind of snap out of that feeling. You snap out of that place. So maybe you think, oh, I wish I could meditate all the time. Or how can I achieve the same quality of beingness outside of this practice? What is this like? Or maybe you're not thinking about that. Maybe you're just feeling the resistance to the present state, whatever it is. If you are worried, if you are nervous, sad, frustrated, anything, impatient, it's not really nice to be in that feeling. So then there are urges to run away from those feelings. And by putting your focus on this unease is how you are avoiding or not allowing, preventing yourself from that place of peace. But that was not my original point. So what I was thinking about is that with those bigger thoughts or bigger plans or expectations of where we're going, what it's going to be like in the heaven, on earth, new earth, whatever it is that we're trying to achieve and find, maybe it's nice sometimes to have those big visions, when you're vibing high, feeling great, and you're like, let's imagine how that would be, or just do a journaling session of what my perfect life would look like. How would I feel? What my presence would be like just the sensations, the thoughts, whatever it is. It's nice to write it sometimes down to see it kind of present in the 3D because we're so 3D focused. But generally, in every situation where you are discontent with something that is happening, that you're observing, that you are experiencing, focusing on the longer goal for long periods of time can be detrimental, because what it does, it just brings you out of the moment. You keep dreaming of that other place, which can stop you from acting in the now. Or then there's another layer of the story of, I wish I could take this step now, but I cannot take this step from the now, because to take that step I need already to prepare something beforehand. Like, I wish I could be happy, but I'm worried about that. Or I wish I could be as peaceful as you are, but my rent is not getting paid this month. So we're creating those excuses within the attempt at liberation of ourselves. Ego comes up with reasons that seem to be more valid than some bigger ones. Oh yes, I am creating fear and stress within my mind, but this is the real fear. This is the true stress. Now, stress and fear, they're never real because they are of the mind and they are born from the mind. And when we give them power, we perceive them as reality. Well, they're not. Yes, they can have some kind of proof in your mind that you trust, that 100% of the times before when that happened, this is the outcome that followed, right? But those are just, again, ego vehicles of staying in the same space, staying in the same position where you are not expanding naturally as consciousness would, but you are sticking to the 3D manifestations that already are. No progress in society would ever have happened if that was the case. No evolution would be possible if we never, just aspired for something bigger and outside of what is present. And so, again, going back, like any unease, any problem is in the mind, and it can be connected to your future worries. It can be connected to your present concerns. And it can even be connected to the past, where you believe that you have failed at something. Failure doesn't exist either, but it's possible at some point to believe that it does, right? And when we take into account that every person has their own ideas of what's right, what's wrong, what success is, we can obviously see that failure is also a very arbitrary term or concept. For somebody, A minus is a failure. And not just in school. For somebody, it could be a whole life drama. I was always so perfect and suddenly this minus. People can lose their minds over that. For somebody, attending school is success, right? So everything is very relative, and we create those sufferings based on our choice of how much suffering we want to endure or we are ready to endure, until we let go of the ego, until we make a choice of not allowing our suffering. It's more like this question of, do you want to be happy, or do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Because ego creates these constructs and ideas of what is right and what is wrong, which is also very arbitrary. Every ego has their own set of rules and values. But for ego, it's painful to acknowledge that they are not right, even though the ego itself is determining what failure is, what right is, what wrong is. But ego wants to be right because it would not exist. There's no need in ego, and the only way it keeps the illusion of it being useful is through proving its existence, proving it being right, and proving it being real and helpful, right? And ego is a protection mechanism. So to exist, I should have said do not disturb. I had a call from I don't know whom. So put me off my thought. I lost the thought, but I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So you have to start right now, and ego is gonna come up with all kinds of excuses as to why you cannot start from the now. And when we are navigating the certain plane of reality, right, if we are used to act out of ego, because that's what we do socially, that's what we do in our culture, that's what we do, and if we are conditioned inside society that does that, right, and has certain values of achievement, good and bad, comparison, punishment, and all of those things. We grow up thinking those are valid and important. So when you start from the now, knowing that this is the plane of ego, you need to also use the tools that ego would perceive as valid to just loosen its grip, to soften its grip. It doesn't make ego really true. I mean, further down the line, you'd be like, it just doesn't exist, and you ignore it. But right now, if I tell you just ignore your ego and just be love and light, that sounds a bit like a joke even, right? Because it's not there yet, because ego has its walls very strong put up. And the first assignment, the first part of this game is to take the walls down brick by brick. And when you're navigating this ego set landscape, you need to pretend like you're, yeah, ego, I'm playing your game. So when you are having a problem in the present moment, like you're standing here and suddenly you're upset about something, whatever it is, somebody said something that got you upset, COVID is annoying, what's gonna happen with my life in 10 years, oh my god, I am this and that and that, oh my god, 20 years ago I said or did this, if I didn't, I would have completely different life. All of those things that just perpetuate suffering, mean nothing, and bring us nowhere. I'm also saying that not very seriously, because they do, because everything that happens is for the good, truly. But it's also not something we need to even incorporate in our journey until we learn to work with the ego, until we dismantle it, after which we don't need to work with that and just acknowledge its fakeness and non-existence. So the only place you can start is from the now. You cannot take a step after the next step. At every given moment, step that you can make is the next step. That's your only option. There is no discussion about it. There is no, my sister had a magic spell that she could say, and sadly she can take a step after the next step. No. Everybody has to take the next step. That's the only step you can make. And even not taking the step, right, is still your choice of being in the same vibration, of staying in the same old choices and old paradigm, which is in a way is also a step. Hi Yuri. So when you know this, when you note this thing, we all know that, right? If you just kind of disconnect your brain from all the illusions and ideas that are present around you, just like, I don't know, standing outside in the street, like under a tree, and you're just by yourself and thinking, like, okay, let me try and take a step that is not the next one, right? You know it's true because it's very simple and nobody has to tell you that. That's how you know it's true. All truths are very simple and you have them inside yourself at all times. It's just that they get clouded and crowded with all the constructs and thoughts on top of them, and then it's like, oh, which one is the good one? So you realize that truth and you note it for yourself. You make a poster. You take a piece of paper and you write it. Take the next step. The only step that is possible is the next step. You can only start from now. When you realize that, every second, every moment when you feel discomfort, when you feel in lack, when you feel attack, when you feel fear, you remember that truth. Okay, now I can do something from here, or I can stay in suffering. That is your choice. When you feel suffering, even if your ego tells you it's still gonna be like helpless, it's gonna stay like this forever. Your choice is to take those thoughts seriously, or from your knowing that those are not true, even though they feel like they are, ground yourself and come back to the moment. And you'll also notice that when you have stressful thoughts and you're doing something, you're going about your everyday routine, you're doing some chores, you're doing your work, you're doing your study, anything. When you are in those thoughts, you are not present, so you're not responding to what's happening around you. You, most of the time, are responding to the thoughts and fears you have in your mind. So then you create them in your life because you've been planning for them to happen, literally. So anytime any discomfort gets you, you have to ground immediately and snap out of it, which is not to say that if you don't, then you have failed, because failure does not exist, right? You can create it. You can judge yourself for it, and through judgment, you create failure. But neither judgment nor failure are real, which is not a judgment of you believing in them. We all do at some point, in some moments. The most important is to take that next step, and snap out of it. And I want to say it doesn't matter, it can take long or it can be quick. I would say it's always quick, because the choice is there. Do I choose to stay in the suffering, or do I choose better? Maybe the feeling behind that you felt, the uncomfortable one, maybe it will stay a little bit longer in the body just from the nature of your body and the chemicals that are being produced. Adrenaline is a very light chemical. It leaves the body very quickly. But the other one, I don't remember the name. Maybe Urian knows. I'll write it. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to write it in the comments. But the other stress chemical that induces aging, I forgot. Doesn't matter. The other one stays cortisol. It stays in the system for longer. And for people who have been experiencing a lot of stress in their lives, they work, like their body works on cortisol much more than adrenaline, because it's more efficient for the body. it produces cortisol and it stays in the system. So it takes time for body to stop producing it, to leave that habit of inducing the suffering onto itself. Because body doesn't know we're in society. Body doesn't know that you're not running from a tiger. Body doesn't know that you're not living in a jungle on a tree. Your mind tells your body how to react. Mind rules everything. Your life, how you feel, your emotions, everything. So when mind tells your body, we are in danger, when our boss tells us that we need to make a minor adjustment in our file, your body is going to believe your mind. It does not have a choice. Body doesn't have its own separate body mind that is like, no mind, I'm going to disagree on that. No, it doesn't happen. Your mind tells your body you're in danger, and your body feels like it's in danger. And then ego does what? Ego is like, haha, you see, we are in danger. We're feeling like we are in danger. So it uses this sensation to prove itself to be real and valid. So it's kind of like a vicious circle. It keeps happening, one thing after another, one thing after another. So this practice of, whenever it's possible, of going back to the moment and realizing what you're doing now is what's important. And not in that sense of, we used to do it this way and now we're going to do it this way. Because that's, again, like a story. And it's a story that implies that there's some kind of expectation of switching from this kind of personality, these kinds of choices, to these kinds of choices. When you go back to the present, that's when you just, without putting words to it, you just know that you are safe right now. And from here, from feeling safe and grounded, there is a natural freedom of choice comes up. You always have freedom of choice, but sometimes you feel like you don't because of those stress responses. So this is very like a simple thing to use. The only step you can take is the next one. So take it. It doesn't mean go quit your job that you hate, go whatever, make a giant painting on the wall of the house or whatever. I don't know. You can do those as well. But it just means to stay here, understand that you are right here in this place in the universe, and you're part of the whole. And all the parts that are moving, and you're one of the moving parts. So whatever you do is never going to be wrong. Your responsibility is to do what it is that you are inspired to do, because that's where your value is at. To bring your genuine and authentic expression to this world. You've been born with a certain blueprint, with a certain mission, with a certain desire. And your mission is to continue bringing out the outlook, that point of view. It's not wrong if you have a different point of view from somebody else. It's not a problem. You don't have to adjust to other people. You have to constantly create safety in your surroundings so that you feel able to express your authenticity. There was something else that I wanted to say. Sorry. I don't know. Maybe I have COVID. I don't think so. Yeah, I started from the journey. And this dragging off expectation of, am I there yet? And desiring to be there somewhere, which is not here. And sometimes, even after a very long process of working on ourselves, we suddenly have this question rise up and be like, okay, I've done this and that and that and that, but I'm still not there. The question itself is indicating that you're not there, because the only there is here. And then you're making the choice to be here, and suddenly you're there. And that's the only thing you have to keep doing. Just keep doing it until it's not something that you have to be really so conscious about. Yes, it's good to be present, but this choice only feels like something to do because it's not something we're used to, because we're used to run from the present moment. So you have to train your body a little bit to stay in the present moment. And every time, even after you think, oh, now I know how to do it, definitely. But when is, the finish line? That moment you remember and you go back to your knowing that the only place is here, the only time is now, and the only step you can make is the next step. And that's never going to change. At all times, it's going to be true. You only can start from the now, and the only step you can take is the next step. And nobody has it different from you. And no amount of thinking and being upset and comparing that they're making a step from a different now than I am. Their here is not my here. Well, it is not, so I'm not gonna move. I'm not gonna do anything. Hi. I'm doing really well, everybody. Thank you so much for asking. I'm doing really well. I'm doing a lot of thinking and making a choice to share it more rather immediately than not, because I've been making a lot of notes recently about very different things, but you make a note, then 10 hours later, you don't feel like talking about it because it's like done. I dealt with that. There's nothing to discuss. So yeah, my new choice is to jump on kind of right away and engage in a little half monologue, tiny bit of dialogue, because I also get distracted when I read the messages. So I'm sorry if you feel ignored. I'm like trying to just stay on track. My thoughts are just like flying from somewhere there and then through my head and then running forward or whatever in the cosmos. But yeah, that's something that hit me, and I also wrote down this really nice quote, and that's also why I started. It's kind of like triggered. The interest in unfolding becomes superficial. Mooji was talking about this, actually, what I was thinking about. But that's how it always happens. God brings you exactly what you are, right? The law of attraction never fails. It's like, you believe it or not, it doesn't matter, you're gonna receive what you are. So we're thinking about it, and he's talking about how at certain point, he didn't say that, but that's what I was cooking up. At certain point, you have to let go of this interest in tracking the progress, because tracking the progress is what nullifies it. Not nullifies, you never can go back or never can undo anything, but that's the learning. The learning is to find that progress is not important. It doesn't really exist, because progress is comparison, right? From like of something bad from before to something better from now, which can be a valid part of the journey, but at some point you have to let it go, because like there's always like, right, growth and then plateau and then growth and plateau. So you have to keep doing certain things to arrive at certain understanding or feeling or state, but then you would continue doing it as a habit. And that's the thing that keeps you on the plateau. Now you have to let go of that desire, that need. Why are you even tracking it, right? Like, what does it bring you? Nothing. It's just a habit. You've been doing it, it worked, then your ego believed it was, worthy of doing, it was important. So you keep doing it, and then you're like, but it doesn't bring in growth anymore. And that's exactly why, because a tool that is used to reach this step is not a tool that's going to bring you to another step. Only the next step is possible. And if any one tool could have brought you to some nirvana state, whatever the finish line that does not exist, right? But there is a certain potential in humanity. It's always expanding, that's why you can't reach it, right? But there's like a certain idea of what we would be, how we would feel. And if that one tool could have brought you there, you wouldn't be able to get there. And that's not because there's no such a tool, but that's because from this perspective, you can't even see the value of the tool that you're gonna use 3 steps ahead from here. And again, as I mentioned, if I tell you just everything is happening for a reason, some person can get mad, right? So we have to a bit, not lower it down, but bring it in more logical ego terms. When you're involved in ego too much, you have to be like, okay, you're gonna be all right. Then when you feel safe, it's like, maybe it was fine, like it was a lesson. Okay, person accepts that. The next step is like, everything happens for a reason. I guess so. Next step, I'm glad it happened. I'm thankful for everything that happened. Next step, it doesn't matter what happens. The only time is now. And you keep going to the next and next step. And that's also the issue in spiritual, I don't want to say like community, or it's just like in the relationship between people who mean well and people who are in pain. The gap, people who mean well, they're often, I might say, most of the times, all of them, they've been in pain. But they moved upwards from, not upwards, it doesn't matter in which direction, they moved away from the pain. So they are not talking to people within the pain, within the ego environment, from the same perspective that they can perceive right now. It's not that they're stupid or anything. Judgment doesn't exist. It's only in your mind. Again, you can perceive it well right now, or you can be like, this is some gibberish. And that means what? That I'm not using right terminology. I'm not using right approach. So that's my thing to learn. So basically, when I'm so far from pain, but you're very deep in pain, it's not that I have to be empathic and feel your pain. No, because pain is an illusion. And I'm not going to make myself suffer so that you feel comfort. I'm going to stay in love. But what I need to do is I need to show you from where you're at that you're safe. Right? And when you're feeling safe in this level, I suggest you, like I throw you a rope. Do you want to come up a little bit? You've been in the water till here. Maybe you get like there, and then you feel more safe. Like, do you think we can move up? And then you get on the shore, and then maybe let's give you some dry clothes. And you still like in the crisis situation, but you're already at least not drowning. So you're feeling better and more open to suggestions. If while you're in the water, I would be like, yeah, bro, you have to get dry clothes. And you'd be like, are you, like, what's wrong with you? There has to be an order to everything. Let me read the comment. About tarot cards, everything is an energy. Tarot cards are, again, very, very good for the situation where I have the answer. And I know. No, it's not the right way to say it. everybody is energy, right? Everybody is a part of the universe. But we don't always believe that. We don't always see it that way. And sometimes from the place of wanting to believe in that, because it's natural, because it's truth, you want to be one with truth. You want to leave the illusion behind. Such tools as tarot, as crystals or whatever, they can help a person from the place of fear and ego to move up towards the hope, towards the connection with the divine. But they're not at all necessary, because again, with the law of attraction, I am channeling you, the answer for you, right? If I know that I'm clear, that I'm not stuck in some kind of resistance in my head, I know that what I'm channeling is safe to share. And a lot of readers, everybody is projecting something, right? So it's your choice. Are you projecting wellness and love, or are you projecting your pain and your fears? And everything has its place for everybody. Sometimes a person, if you're in fear, blame or anger are much better to feel. So if, you get a tarot reading that is projecting those feelings, it's fine. But again, what I'm trying to say, those are great, but they're not necessary at all. They're great tools for the places to receive a message. I also really, really enjoy getting a reading from somebody and knowing that I see cards, right? I see them in a certain way and I receive the message from the card. But when another person, the divine creation, the divine being, they're showing me their input on that, it enriches the message. It opens the door for what I can translate, for what I can receive, and kind of makes it more like 3D, not just a flat 2D message, but it becomes more substantial, even though it's not a thing. But yeah, that's what we are here for, right? To share our unique perspective. I think it's probably been a while since I started the video. Hopefully it goes well and I share it to IGTV, and see you later. Thank you everybody who joined live and everybody who is gonna watch it later on. I'm gonna be adjusting my schedule over coming days, weeks, or whatever. I do want to talk more on here, but it does somehow seem that I'm more chatty in the earlier part of the day. So I'm sorry to the people who are from the other part of the world and are still asleep at that time, because now it's like 3:30 p.m. and I'm already feeling like, it's also getting dark, and I'm like, it's more the reading time for me than talking at this point. But we'll see what I can do about it. And also, of course, it still will stay up. Maybe I should buy some lights. That's an interesting idea. Maybe that happens. We'll see. It's not a priority for now, but stay connected. I also found out you can press some button in the follow, and there is drop down menu, and you can receive notifications. So they made it kind of like on YouTube. You cannot see the creators you follow, but you can, because you can get notifications for the chosen ones. So you can choose me if you want. Have a great day. I love you very much. And I'll post more soon. I'll do it. Yeah. there's a battle in my mind about aesthetics. Fuck aesthetics, it doesn't matter. I'll just post things. Hope you are not gonna be put off by the lack of aesthetics. I seem to worry too much about those. Okay, bye. Where's the button?